day, every day. Right to peaceably assemble all you want. That's just like the mafia could assemble. Everybody, the Masjid, they used to go by and take all their license plate. The FBI, right? They all license. And they done that before with Muslims. Why? To check them out. To assemble, to redress your grievances. They've been writing letters. They've been Islamophobia and everything. And ain't nothing happened. Ain't nothing happened. So, dear believers, we got a big job. But it's a good job. Are there any questions or any comments?
Well, maybe like what you have to do is like Pompeo told Iran, that you just have to become a normal actor, you know, whatever that be. Now, he didn't say like Norway. He didn't say like a Muslim country. He said like Norway. So.
Actually, I like Pompeo. I like the other old crazy man with the walrus beard, mustache.
Yeah, Bolton.
Bolton. I loved him. He's the one that was the president of the university up there in New York.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that insulted President Ahmadinejad.
Right.
Yeah, and he came here, and Ahmadinejad did a good job. He just told him, said, we don't do that in our country. Then the press also said that Bolton had made a mistake. It wasn't a courtesy. But anyway, normal behavior. What we have is, we think it's normal Quranic behavior. We think we have normal Hadith behavior. We think we have normal historical perspective behavior. We think our behavior is normal for anybody that's grown up African American in America and became a Muslim and got lucky, I'm going to call it lucky, to travel all around the world, to touch every base with all the black liberation movements in Africa, you know, to touch base with some of the European and Scandinavian type of groups, to travel through Germany and Europe and all of it, and to see it firsthand, and to be able to smell it and weigh it and measure it. That means that might have been a long time ago, but when something, if you go back and visit every now and then, you can monitor the changes. Example, when we was in Denmark, all the soldiers in Germany would go up to Denmark. You know why? The people in Denmark love niggas, boy. Technically, that's the reason I went to Denmark when I left Africa. I went to Denmark not because of white women or anything, but I went to Denmark and then Sweden because I knew Sweden protected you from the Vietnam War, and so Sweden would protect us. We're on the run. So I was in Malmö, Sweden, and Copenhagen, Copenhagen, Denmark. And it had been that way for decades. More in Denmark and a little less in Sweden. But they loved Negroes. They even liked Arabs. They didn't care. And now, Maghreb Negroes in Denmark, Maghreb Arabs in Denmark, right? They just don't like something that's happened over that long period of time. I can give you a little example. I don't want to take all the time. Just before I got to Denmark, it was a Negro there named Monkey Man. Monkey Man was a pimp. Monkey Man got on TV because he was pimping Danish women, and he was saying that Danish men are sisters and So when I looked at it, I said, have I seen that before? I said, yes. In Algeria and all over Africa, the government sent Negroes around to make life miserable for other Negroes and make people hate them. This is the stupidest thing you could say. In Africa, when I was living in Tanzania and all that, they sent Negroes around to mess up so we wouldn't be welcome. Algeria, when I first went to Algeria, I didn't have no visa, nothing. I didn't even know what one was. So I just went to France, and then I went to, I knew that was, it was a colony of France before. And then I went down to Algeria. When I got there, all the white folks on the plane, everybody said, where's your visa? I said, visa? No, I don't know visa. He looked at me, he said, come with me. He said, give me $2. I gave him $2. He stamped everything, and all the white folks are still in line. I walked right over there. Why? Because they love Negroes in Algeria in 1971. When I came back in 1973, I told the cab driver, take me to the Black Panthers. He said, Black Panther, Black Panther, Black Panther. Like, when I'm like, what's a Black Panther? Where's the Black Panthers? Before all of them knew. Them niggas that went there and messed up so bad. Them and other niggas, the Negroes, messed up so bad that they didn't like us anymore. When I went to Tanzania, some ignorant Negro tried to bring a big old rusty cannon into Dar es Salaam off of a boat. And when I went there, the only brother that wasn't in jail was Pete O'Neill. He told me, man, he said, you know how it is in Africa. If one tribe is in something, the whole tribe is in on it. So they consider us a tribe, the Negro tribe, the African American tribe. So if one guy's gonna do something with a coup, they figure we all in it. They're not listening to it. So, hey man, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable that they used everything. You couldn't imagine what the government has been doing against us all the time. It's like once you get wind of it, you can see 20 or 30 of things, but he's doing hundreds and thousands of things. That's what they was doing to make people hate us. Around Tanzania gave us sanctuary. Tanzania gave us some monies. Like they gave the freedom movement. Dar es Salaam was the headquarters of the liberation movement. Remember, all of Africa wasn't liberated yet. We had Angola, we had groups for Limo, SWAPO, Southwest African peoples. We had South Africa wasn't free yet. You know what I mean? So the government was using everything to help the freedom movement. They gave 1% of their taxes to the freedom movement. And they considered us part of the freedom movement. In Algeria, the Negroes, if they had a program at the Russian embassy showing their latest tanks that can go underwater and all that, they invited the Negroes. They represented African Americans in the United States. The white man didn't like that. The white man didn't like that. Hey man, and he did can you imagine the brothers had all that trouble and they didn't even know what the white man was doing. I mean, everybody was in on it. The Peace Corps, the Diplomatic Corps, everybody was in on it. We're here today. This is a technical miracle. It's a big miracle. Not only just being here, but having the patience to put up with all. You got to remember, a Negro can't put up with too much disappointment. Suppose you have to go through all these decades and decades of people not fulfilling are rising to the occasion of their time. You gotta have patience. And then you say, we rise to the occasion because we've risen to the occasion of our time every time. Whatever we did in the past, that was what we were supposed to do then. That might have been the best that we could do under the circumstances. When we had all the people here, we already knew who they was a long time ago. From day one. Day one. It ain't no mystery. And sometimes we just put up with things that happen day in and day out, over and over again. Because that was our job to do at that time. Because when you're on a big ship and you got a little rudder, it takes you a long time to turn around a battleship or aircraft carrier. That's the way we looked at it, protracted. Okay? So everybody buckle their seatbelts, because no matter what everybody else do, I'm headed on out there. And usually, we're going to get somewhere, but we want to get all the way. We want to get to where we've written about, what we've talked about, what we discussed, that we want to influence the direction of change in America. Now remember, other people have had, I don't mean to keep talking, I'll use Iran again. Iran do not know the amount of fitna it's had against it. It knows some of it. But do you know how many anti-Iranian groups there are? Group to establish democracy in Iran. The double dose of democracy, anti-Iranian cartel. Do you know how much money they spend to mix up Iran? Hey man, I am boggled, mind-boggled by it, because I know 10 or 15 of those groups, and each one of them is enough to smack anybody down. The other people, right? The other countries, they can smack them down. One little blow. Like our movement, they punched us one time. Every group we ever had, they just threw one punch and they knocked us out. We're the only ones that all this time, 50 years, 55 years, hey man, but you know what? All other movements that survived was like that. The apartheid movement wasn't in no 4 or 5 years. They've been doing that since way back when, right? Look at every other movement in Africa. They wasn't no 4 or 5, 3, they had to learn. Look at the Vietnamese. Vietnam. Dien Bien Phu was 1954 when they whooped the French, right? And it was 1975 when they, liberated all. That is 20 years, 3 million people dead. One attack after another. One attack and then you have to rest and regroup, and another cadre of people. That's what they had to do. We're going to have the same thing here, but it's different. Just like they had all that time to learn and study, they studied the Americans. They studied what they did wrong. You know what I like about Vietnam? This guy, Les Duan, he was right under Ho Chi Minh. And Ho Chi Minh was a nice guy, kind of a moderate in between. And certain things, when Les Duan kind of got a whole lot of power, you see Ho Chi Minh drifting over to Paris somewhere. Not Paris, but to Russia for a while. And actually, he was being exiled by Les Duan. Then General Giap, G-I-A-P, he's the one that did the French end at Dien Bien Phu. He was Ho Chi Minh's homeboy, and he was like technically under house arrest. The Tet Offensive, they lost a lot of people. The second mini Tet Offensive, they lost a lot of people. But in 1975, when they wanted to knocked the RVN and knocked the South Vietnamese government and knock them good, they went and got Giap, the boy from the old days. Just studied, he's a military genius, that's what the West say. He said, we gotta win this one. They went and got him. And they walked right over to North South Vietnam, walked right in. He said, no. They said, we can't do it. He said, this is the time to do it. When everybody's saying you can't do it, that's the time to do it. Right? When the French were so arrogant at Dien Bien Phu, they said, we're going to bail our outposts out. And I love everything. And it's covered with, you know how the jungle in Vietnam is. The hills around this place is covered with so much growth that you can't see, the people can't see the guns going off.
Right.
The airplanes can't see where they're hiding. And they got that stuff there. They have reenactments of that stuff all the time and show them digging trenches. And they digging so fast they look like diggers. You know, the automatic diggers. And then they show what they did to the French. This thing at Dien Bien Phu was so important, they went and got the general that pulled it off. Okay, because he had this experience. Technically, that's the way our organization is in this period. The others don't have the knowledge, nor do they have the history. They don't have the history. They went to a university somewhere and learned a couple of little phrases, and that's it. But they didn't even study, they didn't study Islamic movements and Islamic groups. Too. Remember, we have studied, and our old literature had the reading list. Remember that? The study list, what you have to study. We had all them books, still got some over there. Issues of Islamic movement from 1980 to 1987. Those books were still in vogue up until 10 years ago. You can study that and figure out exactly what's happening. Okay, with our people here, that's what we're gonna, that's what's needed. They need tried and tested people. That's exactly what's needed. This is our paper in Imam at pilot that made us a student. Yeah. So we've touched all the bases. We're going to do our part. We wish to travel along with everybody else. We actually want to be with y'all. But where you're going now, you're not headed in the right direction. You're headed exactly the wrong way. I wasn't going to say that because of this humble pie stuff. But the time of being overly sweet, it's not that time. Boss man is busting up Muslims all over the world. He ain't playing at all. And you shouldn't be allowed to sit here and play. You got the numbers, we got the processes. And if you lose 66%, if you lose 60% of your people and sinners for a rebellion, that ain't nothing. The true revolutionary says if you lose 90% of your people, 90% of your base areas, you ain't in bad shape. You just rebuild. I go a little further. I say if you lose 98% of everything you got, then you just got to be tougher and get up and get your behind back together and raise some more people, right? And trust in Allah. When you do that, boss man is getting so weak and stupid, he's stumbling over he can't even pronounce words right, vocabulary. Boss man is finished. We want to play a part in his finishing. That's part of our job, and it's also part of our history. See, we're not only Muslims, which is number one, but we're African American Muslims. You know your history? How many of your super grandparents jumped off them slave ships so they wouldn't have to come here? Right? How many of them did they kill right there? This one won't make it, so we just kill him right here. Or people die, they throw them to the sharks. That's all a part of our history. And that great sound, do you remember me? Yes, indeed. Everybody can do what they want. This is the way I see this period, and I hope we can do it. So, any more questions or comments? No more questions or comments. Thank you very much for being here. As-salamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.